The Art of Flight. It's Flying Friday, and over the last several months, we've visited on Fridays with ducks, geese, Boeing, traveled around the world and beyond to magical lands and met magical fairies, and now we meet the most magical creatures of all, snowboarders. Not merely sponsored by Red Bull. This is in fact a Red Bull produced program. Copyright Red Bull. The flat version of the movie is freely available, seemingly everywhere, including Red Bull's own website. Now, I haven't had a Red Bull since I was a teenager, and let's see if it tastes the same. Yep, not for the faint of heart. Now, this is the juice that drives this movie. The gravity that pulls them over avalanche-prone mountains. They haul it in gas cans because it is the fuel they run on. Oh, I hope that's enough Red Bull. Even the choppers run on it. Now, this began filming in 2009, just as Avatar was storming the world, so they found themselves releasing a flat movie into a 3D hungry world. So a year later, we get this conversion of The Art of Flight 3D as a separate release with its own Blu-ray and even theatrical booking. It was available on Netflix's short-lived 3D service. Now, the opening credits do a neat thing with the conversion. They make these pie slices of unconverted areas, creating a weird broken glass effect that was cool. And one of the strengths of conversion is the ability to apply a god's eye to the large vista shots, and that is on full display here, giving us beautifully separated mountains and snow dunes. Check out this beautiful moon behind the peak shot. I felt like I could peer down into every bump, peak, and valley. The premise of this film is our intrepid snowboarders leap out of helicopters to slide down from impossible peaks, and being able to sense the landscape in 3D helped create some sense of not so much danger, but fun. These slides and slopes look like fun. You get a sense of the sheer drop and could easily imagine yourself flying down like a mad snow torpedo. We also get amazing moments of snow being thrown up into the air that leave you wondering how they managed to convert all the detail we see, often displayed in wonderful slow motion. This was not a cheap throwaway 3D effort. Red Bull gave it wings. You can get a sense of the effort they put into converting this by comparing this baggage cage with the original flat version. To my eyes, I think instead of converting it, they replaced it with a CGI replica to preserve the cage details. In other places, you might be able to pick out this cage showing up kind of like a solid, but as it's usually against the white snow or blue sky, you'd never be able to tell most of the time. And there's also relatively minor details the conversion either ignored or couldn't deal with. There is a little edge flutter. Occasionally, we'll see a helicopter window that makes the pilot look more like a vinyl wrap than actually inside a machine. And there was at least one shot of a lodge that also had windows that looked more like TVs or pictures rather than transparent see-through glass. Despite the amazing attention to snow splatter on the slopes, there are also other shots where you can see the snow get ignored. For example, here we see snow follow the contour of the helicopter, and it goes right back to the mountains when it leaves the object. This is actually common in conversions, where they sort of convert the picture and ignore the weather details. But they usually add some CGI snow to cover up or distract from such a defect. This was 2012, which seems to be just at the point where these 3D conversions were starting to get good enough to compete with the real thing. And if you actually got to see this in 2012, by comparison to any other conversion at the time, it would have seemed like absolute wizardry. And it does still hold up very well. Now, if you want a story, you've come to the wrong place. This is neither documentary nor drama, but experience, best approached in the likes of Baraka, Koyani Sketsi, The Act of Killing, or even Malik's Tree of Life. Albeit the comparison would be a bit more apt if you played those movies at 4 times the speed and jacked up the tunes. Although not a documentary, there are a couple of interesting times when things go wrong. One moment has a pilot having to land on the perch of a mountain. The snowboarders are sitting on the copter rails to keep it from tipping over while they chip ice off the blades. That helicopter was not fueled by Red Bull. Here's another guy who is not taking his juice. Of course, every snowboarder must take precautions against rival snowboard gangs. There can be only one. Although an unexpected diversion, it was entertaining to blow things up in the mountains. At one point, we also travel around the world and visit Chile, which makes me curious what tropical Red Bull tastes like. Yeah. Sleep is for losers. Oh, it's like a grapefruit smashed in my face. Why? Of course, the first order of business is taking out the rivals. Not easy down there. With incidentals taken care of, we also get plenty more shots of scenic, craggy, and dangerous Andes. Now, this movie is about 80 minutes long, and at a certain point, you do get the feeling they're stuffing it with these nature shots to make it long enough for the theater. But in a way, that is kind of what it's like to head into the wilderness. Thrills are brief. Most of your time is spent completely disconnected and left to your own thoughts. And those can be serene or maddening. Actually tastes better than I remember. I wonder if they did something to soften up the taste.